The third day he rose from the dead. That is the line of the Apostles' Creed today in which we are talking about Jesus, of course, overcoming sin and death, defeating death once and for all, and rising from the tomb. Now, interestingly enough, each Lent, each Holy Week, probably on Good Friday, I'll get a message somewhere along the line, and they'll ask me, how is it that Jesus was crucified on Friday, he hung there until he died Friday evening and was put in the tomb, and then, of course, Sunday rose from the dead? When I do the hours there, Friday night to Sunday morning, that isn't 3 days. That's certainly less than 72 hours. That's probably even less than 48 hours. So why is Scripture, why are we proclaiming on 3 days that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, quite frankly, in the Jewish tradition and the way they kept track of time, if any portion of the day was spent doing something, you counted that as a day. So if Jesus was in the tomb on a portion, if only for a few hours Friday night, all day Saturday, and even for a few hours into Sunday before dawn, as we read in Scripture, that counts as 3 days. But quite frankly, here's what I say. Don't get hung up on the hours. Don't get hung up on the calendar days that Jesus was in the tomb, or how many hours completely he was there. He was there Friday, he was there Saturday, he was there for a portion of Sunday. But you know what is more important than the 72 hours or 40 hours? The last 5 words of this line. He rose from the dead. He rose from the dead. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, like my goldfish here, as you can see, I just named them, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, for all the synoptic Gospels, and of course the Gospel according to John, which is different than the synoptic Gospels. All of them still, even in their individuality, even in their own different intended audience, all 4 Gospels proclaim the resurrection message. Let's take a look at what they say. From Matthew, he isn't here. He is risen from the dead, just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was lying. And now go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you. The women ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy, and they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshipped him. From Mark, but the angel said, "Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead. Look, this is where they laid his body. Now go and tell his disciples, including Peter, that Jesus is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there, just as he told you before he died." And from Luke, why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? He isn't here. He is risen from the dead. Remember what he told you back in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be betrayed into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and that he would rise again on the 3rd day. And finally from John, then Simon Peter arrived and went inside. He also noticed the linen wrappings lying there, while the cloth that had covered Jesus' head was folded up and lying apart from the other wrappings. Then the disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For until then, they still hadn't understood the scriptures that said Jesus must rise from the dead. To me, this is the most important line of all the Apostles' Creed. The 3rd day he rose from the dead. If that isn't true, then our faith isn't true. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then he isn't who he says he was. He isn't God. All the other promises that he made, all that he taught us, all that God said throughout the scriptures, then it isn't true. It's an empty faith, but it is true. We can have faith knowing that the scriptures of what they have said are true and how they are written. They gave many opportunities for those to refute the historical Jesus, and what they wrote in scripture could have been contested, and yet did not happen. This is the resurrection. This is Jesus overcoming death, overcoming the sin that had corrupted all of creation, and proving once and for all who Jesus says he was, that his words, the words of the prophet, the words of the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, all point to God, all point to Jesus as being the Son of God, and that is who he says he is, and that God provided us a way for salvation. And the truth is that God's reign will be forever and ever on earth, and that we are invited to be a part of it because Jesus overcame death, because he was crucified, was put in the tomb for 3 days, and then rose from the dead. To that we all can say thanks be to God. Friends, I hope this finds you well, and may God be with you until we meet again.